Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 184. I'm your host, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, coming in from a remote location at Duke Sports Bar and Grill with Johnny V back at the controls in Milwaukee. How are we doing tonight, Johnny?
I think we're doing all right. We got everything worked out. I've been sitting here in front of this computer for feels like the past 2 days, making sure that our memorial setup is good to go. New commercials. We got new players winning and losing. I'm excited.
There is a lot of excitement in the air. We see that the Disc Golf Pro Tour Festival is set up. People were checking in today. I think it went from 11 to 4 or 11 to 5. And tee times are all set. Everybody's ready to go for tomorrow. We're going to have a lead card, or I should say, excuse me, a feature card, along with the women's footage spliced in. And there's a lot of excitement going on. So, but before we get into this upcoming week and what's starting in like less than 12 hours, I think we should have a quick recap from the massive event that just took place in the last day or two. And let's welcome Jeff Chaqua to the show.
Hey everyone, how you doing?
Jeff, so here we are. We're at the Memorial Championships. This is a place that I see you pretty much every year. And the first thing I just said to you a few moments ago is, are you glad it's over? And I think you exhaled deeply, and here we are, running the Las Vegas Challenge. Nice work.
Thank you very much. It's not just me, it's a monster army of staff. They did an incredible job. Can't do a successful event without a lot of volunteers. Glad it's over, but it was incredible. Everything went perfect except for the weather. Everything else went just absolutely great.
There's only so much you can control, I've heard, and unfortunately the weather decided to pick up and have some pretty nasty gusts out there. And there's a lot of people walking around with some injured, blistered, and cracked fingers.
Yes, it was pretty cold on both of the rounds for Thursday and Friday, and it caught all of us off guard. But there was a possibility of snow in Vegas tonight. When I was driving through Kingman on the way here, it was only 37 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and what a lot of people don't realize is that it is out in a desert. It's typically really hot during the summer months, but when it gets cold and the sun goes down, it gets chilly quick, doesn't it?
A lot of people tend to forget that. We have so many tourists that come in just bringing summertime clothes, and the desert does get very cold, and it proved that to us last Thursday and Friday.
So how in the world are you able to actually relax a little bit and come here to the memorial and play golf or hang out with people? How does that feel when you get here?
It's what I really needed. I mean, I'm a very stressful person. I want to make sure everything goes as smooth as possible, even though there's a whole bunch of people that help out. This is my way to decompress all that tightness, all that angst I have going on through the event, just to make sure we try to make as many of our players as happy as possible.
And speaking of players, you ultimately had how many?
568, I believe.
Okay, and that spanned across 3 courses, all at one location at Wild Horse.
One facility, absolutely correct.
And that's quite a feat in itself. Not only that many players, of course, and that you have 3 great courses that are constantly receiving these upgrades and these improvements that you guys have been working so hard, but just the overall management. I mean, that's a lot of people, professionals, amateurs, big-time sponsors. That's a lot on your plate.
It is, and what I try to do is I try to look at everyone's perspective. So I'm not just gearing the tournament towards the AMs or the pros. We try to take everyone into consideration, and the design team for all the courses includes different level of play to make sure everyone's opinion is at least heard. Can't always accommodate everyone's wishes, but we're listening, and we think we did a really good job this year. But a huge shout out has to go out to Innova Champion Disc. They come through every year for our event. This year, they did more than I could have ever expected. I mean, it was an incredible event because of their love and support. Staff, them, the players, all of our other sponsors. It was just incredible. I don't know how we're going to outdo it next year, but somehow we will.
Well, no real surprises. Spoiler alert if you haven't watched the great Jomez coverage already. No surprise to see a name like Paige Pierce on top. She had to fight for it. She was way back, someplace she's not even normal. I don't know the last time she saw 15th place next to her name or wherever she was. She fought back, she battled hard, looked like a really good duel with Katrina Allen, with Jennifer Allen, Sarah Hokum, all right there.
Yep.
So Paige comes out on top, and then obviously maybe equally as big, or maybe even a little bit bigger, just because he's so new to that NT scene, Eagle McMahon. What was it like seeing what some are saying might be the future of our new young champion?
It was great. It was really good to see some new faces up there. We all know who the names are, but like Eagle even said, you know, this one he really needed. This one has really established himself as one of the true top pros. So huge congratulations to both of them. So happy for them. So happy for them and all the other champions that came to the event and won their division.
Correct. I was just going to say, I know we obviously put a lot of focus on the MPO and the FPO division, on those two divisions. But yeah, ultimately you crowned how many champions?
Oh, geez. I think it was close to 24,
okay.
Give or take.
Yeah. Okay. And again, that just talks about the variety, like you said, of the challenge when you're looking at putting the courses together, but also just trying to accommodate so many different people, so many different skill levels. That's no easy task. What do you have a defining memory from this week? Anything that really jumps out, a moment for you personally, whether it was something a staff member did or a player did or said or someone at Wild Horse? Was there anything that really jumps out for you?
I think the biggest thing, minus the love from all the sponsors and the players, is the kudos we got for the T-pads.
Good.
I mean, a lot of people have put in T-pads.
Yeah.
We put in 54 T-pads, so 3 courses in less than 6 months, and it was all volunteer work. There was probably 20 people, die-hard people out there putting in T-pads. We had huge support again from Innova. The facility kicked in some money. Disc Golf Park and Disc Mania gave us a huge break on the turf. It all came together, and that was what was so nice. Is we heard the complaints last year. We did what we could with the accommodations we had at us at that time. But all that hard work paid off, and everyone loved it.
Well, I did. That's one of the resounding remarks that I heard time and time again, is everybody was really impressed. Like you said, not just putting in 54, but all of them just addressing any concerns that people had in the past. Now, if somebody went out to Wild Horse tomorrow, what courses and or layouts or configurations would they see on a day-to-day regular basis?
They would see a mixture of some of the holes that we played during the event, and then some shorter holes, because we try to accommodate the golf flow, the ball golf flow. So they have 2 different courses. There's 23 holes you can play in the morning, before the ball golfers get to the back 9. And then there's another 23 holes you can play in the afternoon after the ball golfers have finished the front 9. So it's a mixture of some Adidas, some disc golf values, but a lot of the Innova courses playable year-round.
Okay, and I'm sure that's probably a question that comes in quite often, which is why I wanted to address it, because I was even thinking, I got to get out to Vegas, but what would I see when I get there? So
and
that
that's
makes
something
sense.
that we're working on. Now that we got the T-pads in, we're going to work on some really nice signage. And that signage will include, now we're going to start to develop some casual amateur pads, because we don't want to push them away from the too difficult of a course design. But we're also going to include on the signage if this is a Las Vegas Challenge hole or something else.
Like
so
that,
someone can really identify the hole with what they're seeing now being aired through social media.
Well, and that's one thing that people talk about when you have a large event, an event such as this. You know, we're playing the Vista XL layout, which is not a normal course that you'd see on a regular basis. You think of the USDGC, that course essentially looks nothing like what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. If you went out there in the middle of August, you wouldn't really see hardly any of the holes that you're used to seeing on any kind of event coverage. Well, I'm going to let you go here soon, but I wanted to give you another quick shout out. I didn't even get a chance, of course, to read it all, but this is your caddy guide, which it's beautiful. It's full color. Look, every single page in here. There's 790 pages. Okay, 141.
No, 144.
100. Yeah, there you go. But it's just beautiful, and of course, not only the rules, but the sponsors. I see a lot of variety when it comes to, various sponsors, manufacturers, things of that nature. This is a ton of work in itself, and also a significant expense, I'm sure. How do you dare up the game for next year? How do you dare improve on this event next year?
I think we're going to work on some sidebar activities to make the week more fun. We kicked off with the opening ceremony.
If you need more fun in Vegas, you're doing it wrong. I'm just going to interject there, but go on.
We had an opening ceremony. We probably had a third of the players maybe attend.
Okay.
It was fun for those that attended, so we're going to figure out a way to get more of our attendees and spectators there. I just had a great conversation with Ricky, last year's winner, and we're going to figure out a way to promote getting more volunteers that are coming in from out of state who want to help, because we give all of our volunteers an incredible package. But I think it's going to be some of the more extracurricular activities. Everything else is going so smooth. I can't imagine how else we can change it.
If it ain't fixed, don't broke. What if it ain't broke, fix it? Something like that.
And if I could finish with one thing,
please
there
do.
is a survey in the back of the caddy book that is seeking everyone's opinion if we should split this up into 2 weekends, because we had 200 people on the wait list. And I really don't want to add another part, because then you won't experience the Wild Horse Las Vegas Challenge experience. So we're trying to seek everyone's input if we should split it up. And the resounding response is no. And I don't think all of the volunteers want to work 2 weekends either.
Yep.
So I think the route we're going to go is we'll start working with the PDGA and bidding on some of the majors so more people can experience what we have developed at the facility. I'm hoping that I'm going to put in a bid package for the 2020 Tim Solinsky.
Okay.
He was a huge inspiration for me, him and Dano here. I mean, that's why I'm here. Between those two, that's why I do what I do. We have a lot of locals back home, but going to their events is what drove me and others in our area to become what we have become.
Awesome.
So I'm really hoping I can run an event in his name.
Well, it makes perfect sense, obviously, with the influence and any potential major that you guys put on. You're setting yourselves up as a great city to be in, a great city. It's like I don't feel like you even need an excuse to find yourself in Las Vegas, one of my favorite places to go. So it would be great to. My final question before I let you go is, what is the craziest way people have pronounced your last name? Because did I hit it all right when I said it? How do you pronounce it?
So I'm so bad with names, I'll take pretty much anything.
Okay.
I am the worst when it comes to names. I even pronounce some of my staff members' names wrong, right, Mr. West? But with that being said, you can imagine what my name would be when I was growing up in grade school. It's Jacques. Or Jackport.
Okay.
But I'm pretty easy.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
If you can find a way to relax, but yet have your fun out there, decompress, as you said, a little bit, add a little moment of clarity, and maybe take a page out of like a Madison Walker's, taking the sights and enjoy the experience. I'm sure you will.
Sounds great.
All right.
Thanks for letting me be on.
All right, Jeff. Appreciate it. All right. I'm going to grab this from you. I'm going to give you one more handshake, and then I'm going to grab your mic, because it's easy to run off with it, and I'm going to grab that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, have a good night, buddy.
More than a minute.
You're all good. Here,
I liked it.
Thank you.
You can have it if you want.
All right, again, appreciate it. See ya. All right, Johnny, there you go. That's information from Jeff. Massive weekend that he had to orchestrate, him and all of his staff and volunteers, all in Las Vegas. So I think we need to find a way to get there next year.
To Vegas next year? I think that would be a lot of fun. I mean, you were there last year for the live broadcast, so.
Lots of fun. I saw Keith Murray running around. We may or may not get a quick word out of him, but anything else you want to add on to Vegas? I know we just kind of, ran through a few details, but is there anything else you want to add on to that we were just talking about?
As far as the actual event, no. I mean, I don't know a heck of a lot about it. I mean, we can go over a few of the results if you want. I've got those pulled up. Well, for those of you that are spoiler prone and maybe haven't watched the broadcast yet, plug your ears. Let's start with the Open Women. The Open Women, Paige Pierce taking down the first national tour of the year, basically winning by about 3 strokes. She shot a 938, which is one of her lower rated rounds in a while. I think other than the one she shot overseas, I think that was like in the 800s or something earlier this year. But as far as national tours go. So she gave herself a little bit of a hole to dig out of to start out with, then followed it up with a 10:21, a 9:48, and finalized it with a 9:77. She took home $2,500.
Nice.
Kind of sneaking into second place, she was almost, there wasn't much talk about her, was Sarah Hokum. A lot of it was Kat and Paige, and a lot of talk of Kona this weekend, but almost nobody talking about Sarah Hokum, and she just consistently shot herself right into second place with a 9:64, a 9:82, a 9:48, and a 9:68. So congratulations to Sarah Hokum. She tied with Katrina Allen in second place at 5 over. That's 3 behind Paige. And finalizing or rounding out the top 5 was Jen Allen and Lisa Fakis. And like I said, just barely missing top 5 was Kona Star Panis. She was kind of the talk of the FPO division after we heard from Sayananda. Everybody was talking about Kona, whether or not she's actually, you know, has she found her game? She's a very young player. She's been playing forever, and just kind of coming out of nowhere. She's always been that, you know, middle to lower middle half of the field, and now jumping up to the top. What do you think, Tara?
Certainly. I mean, everybody sees her out on social media. Her father working over at Innova, doing marketing and social media things there, and Kona, of course, very, very active. And we, as you said, we see her out there week in and week out, and she's always practicing, she's always playing, and certainly striving to be competitive in that women's open field. And this weekend, I think she said it herself that she feels like, you know, it might have been a little bit of a breakthrough for her. And that's got to be exciting, of course. I'm going to turn that. It definitely has to be exciting for her. And I think it's exciting as we're seeing more and more women in general just become more and more competitive and challenging those top spots. You know, we talked about it, not to beat a dead horse, but, you know, we talked about the wind and everything else, where it placed Paige right off the bat, which is very...
Unpage-like.
Unpage-like. Not customary by any means. A little bit of an anomaly. And Sayananda, who, you know, I watched get crowned as your 2016 Women's Amateur World Champion back in Madison, Wisconsin. So seeing some fresh new faces join and get up there and just prove that they're competitive was great. Now, when it all shook out, again, it was a lot of the similar names at the top, and even on the men's side, I feel like that's kind of how it did, you know, eventually shook out. But we saw a few names on top, you know, on the men's side as well. So
yeah, we saw names that really almost no one nationally has heard of. I mean, Joel Freeman was up there.
Yep.
We saw Jesse Adams was up there for a while. I'm just going to do a quick sort. Jeff Renner was our lead card after like the first round, along with Nico, who everyone, and then Chris Kesselhoff, who we had on just at the Next Gen Tour.
Yep, the Next Gen winner. Yep,
he's the Next Gen winner. So we saw a lot of fresh names to start out with, but as I mentioned to somebody on social media, they're like, "Oh, who do you think? Do you think this is kind of the thing?" And I was like, "No, it's 4 rounds. If this were 3 rounds, you might see some of those guys stick up there, but I kind of had a feeling almost all of them would fall off." I was surprised actually to see Joel Freeman maintain and stay up there because he is not a national name. Ultra World did a pretty good interview with him yesterday or today that I read, and he's got an interesting background. He was on American Idol. He made it to like the top 1% as a competitor in American Idol of all things. So he said he wasn't nervous. But as we all said, Eagle taking the win. He comes back from, you know, a little bit behind in first round and more or less climbs his way up and maintains with a 10:33, a 10:53, 10:73, and a 10:47. Joel takes second, beating out Ricky, then Nico, then Simon and Drew, and in 7th place, Paul Macbeth. So Paul was a good 10 strokes behind Eagle, which you don't see very often.
You don't, and he as well, and like so many of those other people, even a Ricky Wysocki and some of the others, to see them 20th, 25th, 30th, 60th, a Johnny McRae and 102nd or whatever at one point, like it was very clear that there was some significant nastiness in the conditions going on out there because. Again, realistically, when's the last time you saw Johnny McRae with 3 digits next to the the standings where he is. It's just insane. So and by no means picking on Johnny, but that I think everybody was shocked by that. I know my picks in fantasy were very shocked by that.
If you want to find Terry in Udley's league, just scroll to the bottom.
Simmer down. So it was very interesting to see it all. The wins. I don't know. I don't know if you can look back and you say like, oh well, maybe a Texas type player or someone who's used to playing or Oklahoma, someone who's used to those wins. But at a certain point, you're just throwing and kind of praying to some degree. Of course, skill still helps, but
you're praying your disc stops where it hits the ground. It doesn't take a big old wind bounce or a wind skip. I mean, that's what I saw a lot of on the broadcast, the post-produced stuff, was a lot of people hitting and just taking these big monster skips, because I know the ground is flat and hard as it is in Vegas, but on top of that, you add the wind, and anytime your disc hits an edge, it's just going to get shoved and pushed.
Well, and I had a conversation with both Paige and Dustin Keegan a little earlier today, and I directed this question at Dustin, and I said, because I'll admit I haven't watched any of the coverage from the event, but I know when playing on a golf course, just generically speaking, it's really easy to utilize the OB sand traps and the cart pass and those types of things. And I look back to our experience in Japan in 2008 and 2010. And when you're on a golf course, you're trying, because there's so few trees usually, you're trying to utilize all these bunkers and OBs. I asked, does it at all, because I don't know the course design that well, especially of the 3 courses, did it ever get monotonous at all? Is there ever a time where your disc is on the top of a spine or a hillside or something like that, and you have to lay up because that's the only practical thing to do? And he said he didn't feel that it was, which is great, and maybe I would have had my own answer had I watched some of the footage, but I think that's one. I don't know if it's quite a pro tip, but that's one thing to think about, I think, as you're out designing courses on places like ball golf courses. Yeah, it's great to have a mounded green because that, the slopes. I just feel like sometimes people overdo it, and there's a slope, and then 60 feet away is always the cart path, which is OB, or there's a sand trap 2 feet behind it. You just need to be careful. And I know the St. Jude course was challenged with that same thing a few years ago. You want to use those obstacles, but at the same time, if you overdo it, you may force people's hands in doing, being really conservative. But
yeah.
And I'd be interested to see what the board says. Again, I didn't watch any of it. I just know that's an easy mistake to make, I feel like, when you're out on golf courses.
But, certainly.
Harold says that he agrees. Well, okay, in case closed. We'll end on that. So what else did we see? I know, as I asked Jeff, he said, roughly 24 people were crowned winners. You don't have to read off every other one. Any other names out there, though, Johnny, that jumped out at you, either as a surprise or
not
a blast from the past?
Not as a surprise. The Masters were in a different, technically a different tournament, so I need to go to a different.
Yeah, they were as an A tier, listed as an A tier for the weekend.
Exactly. So taking down the Pro Masters field was Patrick Brown. No big surprise there. He, he kept it right around. He averaged about 10-10 rated golf. It looks like 10-14, 10-28, 991, and 1005. So somewhere around there. Beating Dave Felberg by 2 strokes and Shasta by 5. Don Smith shot a 2 down. So it looks like, and then Jonathan Baldwin rounded out the top 5. We saw in the Pro Masters women, Ashley Conley taking home the win, and in the Pro Masters 50 plus, Eric Rainey tied with Bruce Nisley. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and clearly, so this is funny. It says a tie for first place. It has Eric Rainey at the top, but he has less prize money than Bruce. So I'm going to take a wild guess and say Bruce won the playoff because he has $1,700 behind his name, and Eric has $1,050. So I'm going to go with a wild guess and say that that's the case. Other than that, I mean, we saw Sam Ferens compete. He was in the Pro Masters 50 plus, and he looks like he took. Did he cash? He just barely missed.
Sam Ferens is 50? Are you kidding me?
He is. Well, his PDG number is 2872, and I know he got that when he was like 4, something like that. Yeah. So, but yes, he took 18th and just missed cash. So, other than that, I mean, it was your typical kind of PDGA NT. It seemed like it was run pretty well. It was nice to have UDisc there for the first time. I was able to follow a lot of different ways. So UDisc even opened up a little chat room for some people, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll follow up on that quickly. Matt from UDisc has been kind of around Dukes all day. He's not getting drunk. He is programming and getting ready the 20 to 25 phones that will be handed to anyone that offers to do live scoring. So Steve, yet another improvement here on the Pro Tour. Of course, we're looking for people to help with the UDisc scoring and any given event. And people have said, well, I don't want to use my phone or the battery, or I don't have enough battery. And we've had Goal Zero help out with giving portable power packs. And then some people have said, well, I don't want to use my data, even though it requires very little data use. So Steve has actually purchased 24 or 25 phones, and they're all being programmed, and they're all going to have the UDisc app on it, and so they could just be handed to someone that's interested in going out, and that way you can still take pictures with your own phone or whatever. So a pretty significant investment made there, but everybody's going to have their have the opportunity to be handed a phone if they're out there doing live scoring. So thought I'd throw that in there. But meanwhile, Matt is sitting here along with a whole small crew of people. They have to put in an access code, completely rework them, make sure they're charged, and then set them up with the cell service. And it's been a pretty monotonous day for them.
I can only imagine.
So.
Because Dana's in Mexico enjoying the warm weather, do you realize, Terry, it was 60 degrees here today? It was gorgeous.
That's what I heard.
It was nicer here than in Vegas.
Yes. I can't complain. I think we topped out somewhere in the mid-70s. But to hear there was 55 to 60-ish in Wisconsin, I guess it's like I'm sending a little bit. And everyone here is complaining. Oh, my gosh, it's 48 right now. It's so cold.
Anyway.
I'll take it.
We did have one other event this past weekend. Over on the East Coast, the Spikeheisers Stumpy's Fling and Ching, driven by Innova Disc Golf, with special thanks to States Vegas. Maybe the longest tournament name of the year. It's hard to tell.
At least so far.
At least so far that we've talked about. If you can find a longer one, reach out to us. Let us know. But these are kind of the guys over on the East Coast that didn't make the trip over to the Memorial, and probably aren't going to, from my understanding. Taking first place, Chris Dickerson, who is not scheduled to be out at the Memorial, I looked, and beating Michael Joe by 9 strokes. Followed up by 9 strokes, 9 times.
9 times.
Taking third place is AJ Carey, fourth place Ryan Kenny. But the big news, and I don't know anything about it other than what's on the results, leading after the first round was Barry Schultz. And he DNF'd. No second.
Interesting.
No second or third round. So I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if there was some sort of injury issue or what, but he was in the lead by a stroke after the first round. He shot a 1,058 rated round. So not sure what happened over there. Hoping, wishing Barry the best. Hopefully it's nothing serious. And taking down the open women, we have Debbie Scott over Deanne Donaldson. So it was just a 2-person field. Congratulations to Debbie, taking home $165.
Very nice. Yeah, I am curious. Maybe someone on the board knows as to what might have happened with Mr. Schultz. Obviously, it wouldn't be stemmed from any form of play or problems with his play, unless one would have to think there was something to do with an injury or something of that nature. So, Scott on the board says that Barry was there on day 2 as well, but he didn't ask him why he withdrew. So, very interesting.
Yeah, who knows? I mean,
wonder what the story is there.
Somebody on the East Coast, find out and let us know, and we'll report it like we discovered it. So, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. we'll take all the credit for it. And the other interesting fact that I just didn't research was that Chris Dickerson hasn't lost in 2018. He has entered, I believe, 6 events and won all 6 events.
Yeah, I'm looking.
And if that's incorrect, I'm going to blame someone else on the board, but I'll pass it off like I researched that.
It is not incorrect. It is very correct. Savannah Open, Knoxville Ice Bowl, Mookie's, Buckhorn, Hilton Head, and the Spikehiser are all victories.
What roughly does, so six events, 6 victories, and quick math on that, Johnny, roughly, give me an estimate. How much has he won this year?
I'd say about $2,700.
Okay, so Chris Diskerson very much, keeps things local and regional, so to speak. I'll put a plug in. I know that I had a quick conversation with Seth over at Disc Golf Strong today, and Seth said he's been working with Chris Dickerson, so I guess if you just want to win every event this year, just work with Seth over at Disc Golf Strong, and you're set. I mean,
it didn't work with
Seth.
It didn't work for Ricky. Ricky's working with him. Ricky didn't.
I'm not going there. I'm not going there. I'm just saying. I did just see Ricky in here. He was here a few minutes ago. I believe he recorded a piece with Dixon Jowers that we may see released later this week. So a little spoiler there.
Yeah.
I also saw Kale Laviska out here.
Did you punch him for me?
No, but I thought about it.
Just in the arm. Just in the arm.
But Kale, as we talked about, was it last week or so, picking up his 100th win. So very cool to see.
Yeah.
All right. So, do you want to sidestep from results right into a little bit of the opening of the disc golf fantasy season and what some people saw there, without giving every single detail, but some of the things we saw over on the fantasy site? Or no?
I guess. Yeah. You have to forgive me.
Hey, I'm willing to bring it up, and I got shellacked.
No,
so.
I know you did. I feel really bad. So let me do this once real quick. Let me pull it up here.
So for those, just to give a quick preface, if you're not already familiar, even though there's more than a couple thousand people signed up, if you go to skipace.com, you can play along. There's fantasy disc golf. There's leagues that you can join, leagues that you can create. Of course, there's a handful of leagues that are there by default. I know the Disc Golf Pro Tour, for instance, also has their own league. If you're going to do that, you need to get involved in the next few minutes before it shuts down. But
DGPT is the join code?
Yeah, so if you want to get involved, you can, and like I said, or create your own league. And Johnny's constantly working on updates with that. All of it is free out there, so if you want to challenge your buddies and create your own league and just have it amongst yourselves, or you can play along with what we're doing. We've got a league that will stay specifically on top of, and that's Yuli's Picks, as we'll be having Paul Ulibarri join us quite often throughout the season. So
yeah, we'll talk about Yuli's Picks here real quick. Yuli crushing us at 1,034 points, and I can probably pull up what his thing is. We're working on a little bit of redesign for the standings page, so you can click on it and drill down on each person to see who they picked. But as of right now, that isn't quite finished yet. So I'm hoping by the end of the weekend that'll be there, so that we can see, so you can be able to break it down by week and by whomever people picked.
Okay.
So
and then a real quick premise for everyone out there is you essentially you have the opportunity to pick from 4 pro men at an event such as the Memorial taking place this weekend. You pick 4 pro men, and then you pick 2 pro women, and you have a cap of 6,000 total points, and that's related to their PDGA rating. And then you also have the opportunity to pick 1 alternate in both the men's side and 1 alternate on the women's side. That's in case someone like Greg Barsby doesn't ultimately play in the event, even though someone like me may have picked him. He doesn't play in the event, and then you would have basically, it's a substitution that could fill in lieu of you missing out 1 person. Now, if you miss out, if 2 people are don't show up,
I can't find Yuli's picks at this point, but I can give you my picks, and if you do click on picks, you can see your picks. I scored 799 points, and I had picked Paul Macbeth, Paul Ulibarri, Greg Barsby, who DNF'd, Nico LaCastro, and my alternate was Paul Oman. So instead of Greg, I got Paul. My FPO picks were Paige Pierce and Leslie Todd. So thankfully, Leslie got herself just up a little bit into that 10th spot, I believe, 10th or 9th, and was able to get me a few points. Now, Terry, let's make people cry. Do you have your list of picks?
I don't. I could probably really quickly pull them up.
What I do know is if I go to the standings, and I'm not joking here, and you literally go to the last page of Yuli's picks, you can find Terry. He is he's the bottom person.
Which, just for a little bit of contrast. At this point last year,
2 years ago,
was it 2 years ago?
it was.
Okay, at this point 2 years ago, no one's living in the past here. 2 years ago, I had picked a perfect lineup in the opening event, which at that time was the Wintertime Open. Then you followed up the next weekend, and I had a stellar performance of picks at the Las Vegas Challenge. And I think for the first, 99% of the season, I had the lead and ended up winning the overall season, starting out blistering in the first 2 or 3 events. So I'm going to throw that out there while we then segue into a few people that didn't perform for me here in Vegas.
So we'll say you picked Big Germ and Johnny McRae, both of which, and Greg Barsby, but thankfully you got an alternate for Barsby, ultimately scoring 419 points. There literally was nobody under you that made a pick. Everyone else has 0. So you're, everyone's saying T-Dog is dead last. So ultimately, it was a rough go for you this week. Hopefully, you're going to get some inside tips there at the Memorial. You're gonna do some crush. We are gonna give a little tip here, as I did on the board. If you weren't paying attention to the YouTube board, pull Yuli from all of your picks.
Ooh, this could be reverse psychology. Or not.
My understanding is that he got hit in the ribs, and he is unsure if he's going to play. He says he might give it a go, but doesn't know for sure if he's going to be able to complete, because he literally said on social media that his rib might be broken. I don't know how accurate that is, or if it's just a nice big fat bruise, but I'll say...
or he likes the McRib.
Or he might like the McRib. I don't know. But ultimately, do yourself a favor. Probably take him out of your picks. We're not gonna post that anywhere else. This is a podcast exclusive. By the time people hear this,
live podcast exclusive.
Exactly, because by the time other people hear this
later, it's too late. So yeah, there you go. I'll follow that up by saying I was pulling into Duke's tonight or this afternoon, and Yuli called me, and I said, "What's up?" And he was breathing kind of heavy, and he sounded really like he was struggling. And I'm like, "What's up?" And he opened by saying, he's like, "Well, you're live all week or whatever, and could you possibly use a co-commentator?" I was like, "Why? What's going on?" And then he told me that he got hit in the side with a disc. I think he said he was out doing a clinic or a private lesson or one of the two, and he wasn't at the courses here. So he wasn't at the Vista, or he wasn't at Fountain. He was at, I believe, another course, and took a disc right to the side. He said the guy was maybe 100 feet away.
Ooh.
And he took a driver to his side, and that's where the conversation stems from, about possibly a broken rib or just a really bruised rib. But he was very gingerly walking around and not loving life here tonight. So of course, super sad to hear it. Yuli, this is like his backyard, although he doesn't traditionally play really
if you're smart, you didn't have him in there anyway. But
correct. So we'll see. I believe that he'll play. That's what I think. I know he said it would probably be a game time decision. I said, and that's why it was kind of funny even thinking about how it could relate to helping out with the SmashBoxx broadcast, because he's I believe is he a noon maybe tee off? So we'll see what happens. Of course, we'd love to have him. I'd love to have him as a co-commentator to assist throughout the week, but I'd love to also see him compete if he's up for it. So hopefully it'll be crystal clear what he needs to do.
All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your fantasy talk. If you want to go out there, do skipace.com and sign up for one of the leagues. Like I said, if you want to sign up for the Ulis picks, we might be giving away a prize here and again this year. Nothing consistent, but ULIS is the join code for that. So we'll talk a little bit PDGA. Well, not necessarily PDGA news, but news in general. A new tour has popped up, the Discmania Fantasy Doubles Tour. It is it's a 10-stop tour. And here I'm just pulling up. I had the information here, and then I clicked on the wrong thing and it went away. But basically, it's a bring your own doubles tour, and I think they're hitting about 20 spots this year. throughout the U.S. where you can win Discmania stuff. So there's a bunch of events. Scroll down because now there's a bunch of events that they created, so you could find out if there's a local one in your area. Yeah, the Fantasy Doubles Tour 2018. I'm pulling up the information right now. More or less, it's a doubles round of best shot, 2 players per team, hence doubles. Divisions, only 1 division. Everyone gets a player's pack. The prizes are first place gets a Discmania Fanatic bag. Second place gets a Discmania hat. Third place gets a Discmania disc. And 3 discs will be raffled off during the round. So it's another one of our, we've seen them with the Ace Race. We've seen it with the 2-disc challenges, Birdie Bash a while back. It's another manufacturer putting out another kind of fun tour where you can earn and win their memorabilia.
Okay, interesting. One person I haven't seen too much, thinking of Discmania, I haven't really seen Eagle too much. I don't know if I saw him briefly yesterday. I don't think I did. And I have not seen Simon either. A little bit different atmosphere here, with this event contracting by roughly a third. There's still plenty of people here. We're at Duke's. I know there's a bunch of people off in the distance that I can see. Excuse me. I know with things getting started tomorrow, there's some people that are probably taking it a little bit easier than others. And so things aren't too crazy at this point. But to have a few hundred less competitors here provides a little bit different feel. But I think as the week wears on, it's going to be a tighter knit group of competitors. So and hopefully if I end up doing more shows throughout the week, we'll probably be here at Duke's and we'll be able to pull in people and talk to people as they stop by or they visit or whatever. So,
all right.
Well, real quick, I saw it. Somebody mentioned something about Jomez, and as I was heading back to the apartment to grab the stuff for the podcast tonight, I was at the very end of the course, or I should say the turn, and which is the furthest point out on the course, and playing back on hole 11, I saw all 3 of the Jomez. Well, I should say there's 4 now, but I saw 3 of the Jomez boys out there, and Jerry, Mike, and Jonathan were all out there. And I thought to myself, I literally said out loud, good they've got time to go and do that, which is awesome. Everybody knows that they busted their tails this weekend, that they put out a ton of great content. I can't even fathom, probably how tired they were. And here we are a day before the event, and they were able to take in a round of golf. And it kind of put a little smile on my face, because I think that's awesome to be able to see that they had a little bit of breathing room to be able to go out and get that in this afternoon.
So do you know what the story is on Val Jenkins? Have you talked to Val? Is she playing? Her name was pulled off of the registration. We see Nate's is still on there, but do you have any insider information on that?
Yeah, so yesterday I was out at Fountain, and I ultimately caught up. First of all, I got to say, I got a quick tour of the Dynamic Discs new RV, which I know a lot of you have seen on social media. I got a super quick tour of that. And at that point, Nate Doss was also right there. So we were all kind of just sitting in the RV together with everybody. And later, I managed to catch up with a couple of the guys from Discraft, Mike and Kyle and Nate, and we all went down to Mill Street. Some of you are familiar with Mill Street down at ASU. We grabbed some dinner and a few drinks. I had a headache, so I actually cut out early. And of course, Nate not with Val, or Val not with Nate, immediate question. And Nate just basically said that there's some family stuff that she wants to take care of. And she thought it might be on her mind or it might not be, and ultimately just made the decision that she wanted to tend to some family stuff. Okay. And so that's where Val is. And so again, for those that don't know, if you had her in your lineup and you're listening right now, go ahead and pull her because she absolutely will not be here, and that you can take to the bank. She will not be here and competing, so which is too bad. Obviously, a force to be reckoned with in the women's field, just as competitive as anyone else up there on the top. But she's not going to be here this weekend. So,
all right. Well, let's talk real quick a little bit about the Memorial coming up. We can do a little bit of a preview. This year is going to be a little bit different than what we've seen in the past 5 or 6 or maybe even more years, in that we're going to be finishing at Vista. So we're going to go Fountain Vista for the MPO field. I don't know how much it really changes anything other than the aesthetic on that final day. Vista is obviously, it's less of a, what the kids call a hyzer fest, where the Fountain tends to be fight the wind, throw your perfect hyzer, and throw your putt in. Other than probably hole 18, unless you're laying up, almost every other hole can be practically just be thrown a hyzer at it. So, do you think that we're going to see a change in the guard, because this has been the Memorial for the past few years? Is that going to change on the final day?
It's funny because, as we all know, I mean, last year and the last handful of years, it's been 36 holes at Fountain, 36 holes at Vista, just as you said, in a different order. Is that going to change up the way it's viewed, or the dynamic, or potentially the finish? I mean, in theory, you're still playing 72 holes. I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be. That's just it. Some people say, well, the scoring can be a little bit crazier because Vista is a much tougher course, which I think by most accounts, a lot of people would agree. Scoring out at Vista is more difficult, and there's possibly more danger than at Fountain. All right, so we can agree on that. I just don't know if that's how that's going to really unfold or relate, or if that's going to matter. I don't know. The short answer is I don't know. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Like you said, there's aesthetics. We're used to being out at Fountain. However, you know, spinners on the green, like if I could like reach through this back wall behind me and I had a go-go gadget arm that's about 50 feet long, I'd be in spinners on the green. And if I could reach 150 feet that way, I'd be out on the course. So that tells you the proximity of this kind of being a home base. You know, Spinners is able to operate a little bit more conveniently out of their home base. The other big advantage to being here, and I'm sure we kind of discussed this with Keith, was if somebody's going to stumble into watching disc golf, you're much more likely to have it here at Vista. If you're a rec player, maybe you typically shop at Spinners, or maybe you're just generally in the city more, you're right here and you could stumble upon this course. Nobody stumbles upon disc golf out at Fountain Hills except for the retired community that lives out there. And there are hundreds or maybe even thousands of retired walkers that are, retired people that are out there walking around, vacationing, or are snowbirds. That's, I would say, like 90% of your potential spectator base. Here, in a much more populated area, again, I think you're more likely to have a diverse crowd, and I think if someone's thinking, I could see watching disc golf today, I think they're more likely to come somewhere here rather than mentally saying, oh yeah, I got to drive 30 minutes out to Fountain. Because just let's face it, Fountain's just really kind of out there.
Yeah, it's like a 35-minute drive.
Yeah, I mean, and almost anywhere you are, you're talking, Fountain is minimum 15 to 20 for pretty much everybody. And obviously it could be 20 to 40 or more. That's its geography. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the crowds are any different, the gallery is any different. I think it's going to be a little harder to control the gallery here because of the course configuration. So I think that might be a challenge, but I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
A lot of people on the board are talking about the new Chainstar Pros. Have you heard any feedback from the players this year or at the event, or are they all just happy it's just a different basket than the old Chainstars?
I'll admit I kind of walked around a little bit tonight. I see them. They're red. They're out there installed here at the Vista course. Something new this year that I don't personally like is that hole 17s is elevated, and I know hole 17 everyone would say, it's such an easy shot. It's a little it's a downhill 250, 260 foot shot. It does have a little OB left and behind the basket, but I mean it should be an all but automatic birdie for players. It's the second to last hole, Well, they raised it. I don't know if it's by a foot or 2 feet or whatever. They raised it. I understand the logic. I just don't like that hole getting raised. There's other holes that are raised. It's just that one. I don't know. I didn't like that personally. I didn't get any real feedback on the baskets, but I didn't ask for any. I saw a bunch of people putting on them. I didn't hear a single complaint, but I also didn't solicit any feedback. I'll say this. I putted on some of the prototypes when I was in, at Discraft. Nate and Val were there, and we were all putting on one of the prototypes. It caught everything it should have caught. Like, literally everything that it should have caught. I don't think you're going to hear too many complaints about the catching capabilities of this basket. I don't think you're going to hear any. I'd be really shocked if you did.
Okay.
Like, legitimate complaint about the catching capability of this basket. I don't think it's there.
All right, good.
So,
I mean, that'll be a good change of pace. So, you know, there'll be no complaints from some of our pros when their discs get spit out, other than the normal complaints that it's not their fault. So, let's talk. I was just
real quick. Let me follow that up. One of the things, and I know this was kind of a hot topic, so it's also worth mentioning quickly. There's a few T's, as talked about when I was here, last month. There's a few T's that are shortened or that are different for the women. There are also, in a number of spots at both courses, there are a few baskets that are actually shortened and not the T's. So I know one of the challenges or considerations has been, well, if we go to shorter tees or different tees, or we'll say not normal or regular tees, is the quality of the tee pad going to suffer? Well, in some of the cases, and I'll immediately think to hole 18 here at Vista, or hole 2, or hole 4 out at Fountain. Those are two that come immediately to mind. They're playing to a shorter basket. And so they'll have the regular tee to throw from, but they'll be playing to a shorter pin position. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's going to be a little bit confusing probably, as, it's something new for all of us. But I wanted to throw that out there, that there are a few holes that they're playing from either a different tee or the same tee, but to a different, shorter basket location. So wanted to throw that out there.
All right, let's talk about the live broadcast.
Yes, Bo just asked, will SmashBoxx be live for this event?
We are. We're going live tomorrow. So the broadcast will start, and I'm going to talk local times here, so local Phoenix time.
Okay.
Yeah, local Phoenix time, not local my time. We are going live at 2 p.m. Phoenix time. So wherever you live, go figure that out.
Exactly.
All I know is it's 3 p.m. for the Central. And
okay, 4 p.m. for Eastern, and I think that means 1 p.m. Pacific, but don't quote us.
Yeah,
that's a lot of thinking.
That's probably right, but the way Phoenix bounces back and forth between time zones, I never know if it's 1 or 2 hours off, but pretty sure right now it's only 1. So, yeah, so we're going to go live. The first tee off is about 2:20 Phoenix time. We're going to come live at 2 o'clock, do some prep. We've got some videos. We've got some new not commentators. We've got some new contributors for the pre-game stuff. Dixon Jowers will be doing some things. Steve Dodge is sending some stuff. I've already got some assets loaded up. We are going to be live every day at that time: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So all 4 days.
Every single day. Yeah, mark your calendar /alarm that every single day at that 2 p.m. Mountain Time or other times, that is when we will be going live with our SmashBoxx show.
Joel asks, what card will you be covering? We will always be covering the lead card.
Or the first day it was deemed a featured
the
card,
final card. We'll say the final card teeing of the day. That's what our coverage is. So that's the featured card, or I always call it the lead because it's it's always the ones, all that other good stuff. So the other big change this year is, in the past, we've always broadcast on the SmashBoxx YouTube page and the Pro Tour YouTube page. That is not going to be the case this year. Steve Dodge decided he wanted everything on the Pro Tour page to consolidate.
Do we get a pay increase for that?
I don't think we do. To consolidate numbers. so that it's easier for him to gather all the information and numbers and send them out to potential sponsors and things of that nature, rather than having to come to me and ask for all these crazy numbers. I'm going to leave it up to him now. So you can find it on DG Disc Golf Pro Tour PT.com/watch, DGPT.com/watch, or go to the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube page. Both will have the link right there, and you'll find it. It's easy to find. I haven't even run this by Steve yet, but I haven't decided if I'm going to do a smash cut yet. But if I do, it's going to be for Patreon supporters only.
What a clever idea.
I know. So if that's the case, I haven't decided if I'm going to do it yet. It depends on when we all get finished, how long it takes. I might do one and figure out the time, because I've got a slightly different setup this year, so I might be able to even knock it out a little bit faster than in the past. But yeah, so that's the schedule. That's what we plan on doing. We're going to hopefully get this stuff all hammered out. It's I'm nervous because we haven't gone live in, like 4 or 5 months.
Oh, 3.
It feels like longer. Anyway,
It does.
but I've been sitting in front of this computer setting up the show. Got a couple little maybe a little trick or two that you guys might like. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of our standard affair. We're hopefully just going to knock it out of the park.
Let's not. Come on, now let's keep the bar set pretty low here.
It's a small park. It's like a little league park.
Or it's like the minor, or not. It's like the spring training parks here that are everywhere in in the Phoenix area. There you go. Exactly. Yeah, and thank you, Country Disc Golf. One of the things that's going to be added this year, which we will have no part of personally, Johnny V and myself, you're going to see some live trivia and other things that will be part of the interactive broadcast experience. So for what it's worth, prepare for that. If you care about being involved, I think Steve's got some stuff going on with Patreon supporters of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, that is. So just so you know, be prepared for that.
Yeah, don't quote me on this, but my understanding is Steve's going to have 2 giveaways per round. I believe it's a pair of Keen shoes.
And maybe a basket from time to time.
And maybe a basket. I think that's
I believe an MVP Axiom basket, or I'm sorry, an Axiom basket of sorts.
Maybe something like that. But I believe these are only for, and during one of the commercials, it'll pop up. It'll show you a trivia question. I think you need to be a super chatter in order to.
That's what it was.
Yeah, you need to be a super chatter in order to qualify. So if you know the answer and you donate like $1, you have a chance to win with only the people that do the super chatting. Steve's running it. It's not us. We're not doing anything like that. We're just going to do the broadcast. We're going to leave all that other fun stuff to Steve. But just be prepared for that. So that's going to pop up somewhere in the middle of the show and towards the end of the show.
Exactly. So I believe Steve says a lot of silly stuff to me, especially over the last 2 nights of hanging out. Mm-hmm. I believe a free pair of Keens will be given away literally every single live round this year. So you're looking at 30-some pairs of Keens to be given away. And I believe the people eligible are people that were super chatters of the broadcast, of that particular broadcast. Again, I think Steve will have some form of very specific rules and details there. I hope he explains it all very clearly. Otherwise, I told him it's going to be one big mess on his plate. But, so there it is.
So don't come to us for the trivia stuff. It's all Steve. CDG says, Country Disc Golf says that you have to super chat before the trivia. I don't know if that's true or if you can answer and then super chat.
You need to super chat before the trivia answer. You need to super chat. That's what, in fact, makes you eligible to then answer the trivia question for the prizes.
Oh, okay.
So, just throwing it out there. Yes, and I believe there is some Chasing the Bees poetry on the pre-show.
There is.
I overheard a little bit of that yesterday, and I'm excited for everyone to hear that as well. It should be good. So anyway, so we're making a quick plug, but at the same time, the second we drop that plug, we are then running and washing our hands of any other affiliation, just because it's what Steve's brainchild.
Yes, just letting you know what is going on with with Steve Dodge. Don't hold our feet to the fire. It's not even on our channel. Not even on our channel. So, which is why he can do the super chat that way. It's one of the reasons why he wanted to combine and not have anything on the Smashbox, so that everything is in one spot. So
now, Johnny, so if people wanted to like test, because tomorrow's the day, I would suggest today or tonight would be a good way to test the super chat feature now.
I mean,
they could do that today if they wanted to. So if you don't know what it is, there's this little box. It's right next to a smiley face on the YouTube chat. There's a little box. It has a $ sign on it, and if you click on it, I'm not sure what happens, but you should just probably follow along. It says something about send a super chat, and then you enter in, like randomly grab a string of numbers from the top of your keyboard and enter it in, and then see what happens. So just throwing that out there.
The more numbers you push tonight, the better your chance to win tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it. Sure. So anyway,
yeah.
All right. So yeah, that's what's going on. Some really good stuff. We're excited. Yeah, we're on the eve of the Memorial. I mean, you know, a lot of people talk about the national tour kicking off last week. Obviously, that 4-day event, and others have experienced and talked about it, that you had 4 rounds last weekend, very blustery, cold, crazy conditions. Thanks, Alex, for the super chat. All these crazy conditions, and then just the 2 days, really Monday and Tuesday off. And then Wednesday, you're starting another 4-round tournament. I don't know if at any other point in the season there will be 8 high-level disc golf rounds played in such a small window of time. I can't imagine that there will be. No, I'm just going to say there's not. In this small window of time. So we're talking about 8 competitive rounds in 10 days? Is that what it is?
It is something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Hey, Max. Yes, that's how that works, Max. I think you have a decimal point in the wrong spot, but that's exactly how that works. Thank you for the super chat. So, super exciting to see. Men's Pro Sword Division for the MPS. Jeff Hungerford, one of our Smashies, out on the board. Ryan Pilcher, thank you for the super chat. That's very kind of you.
Thank you, Ryan. He's a awesome Smashie and big into the fantasy disc golf. So.
Yes. Sounds like there's some excitement going on. I don't know if there's some shuffleboard. I saw Steve Brinster involved in what looked like a pretty intense shuffleboard. If any of you know Steve Brinster from out in Jersey on the East Coast, he doesn't mess around when it comes to his shuffleboard. Certainly one of the favorites of many of the golfers here at Duke's on any given Memorial weekend. Question Tim asked, how many viewers? 4 to 5. Yeah, we may see 4,000 or 5,000 viewers. We're hoping for 4,000 or 5,000. That's not a crazy number to see at the Memorial. We'd love to see 10,000. You know, we just need those. Want to see more and more of those numbers increasing. Terry Moreland, appreciate the super chat. Chris Durkins, appreciate the super chat as well. Thank you guys. Out on the board, Ray is asking it. What's the word on Josh Anthon? He didn't finish. I saw Josh briefly today, and he was a little bit off in a distance, and I meant to run over and catch up with him, but I didn't. I do want to know what's going on. Many of you guys talked about it. Some of you guys were, I'll say, punished in the fantasy league with Josh not finishing at the Las Vegas Challenge, and I'll be honest, I just flat out don't know the story, but I'm guessing by the end of the week I'll get to the bottom of it and report back. Steve Miller asked, Terry, I need that video of shuffleboard in Maricopa. Yes, I think I have that buried somewhere. And someone said they're calling for 4,236 viewers on Saturday.
All right.
It's a pretty good estimate.
Ryan Pilcher says he's glad 2 weeks in the fantasy disc golf gets dropped because he royally screwed up this week. Yes, Terry too. So, Dad's thanking me for the Kale pick in Survivor. Kale!
Yeah.
I'd love to know when Kale took out of the top 15 the last time. I'd be very curious. I should go back and look because that is I think we said 2 weeks ago, if there's 2 picks that are just consistent, it's Kale and Nate Doss. And the fact that Kale just had a rough stretch. I think in the second or third round where he was like 5 or 6 over at one point, and then he came back, but just got off on the wrong foot. So we'll see. All right, Terry, do we have any?
When's the last time you saw Johnny McRae out of cash?
Who knows? Who knows? So what? I don't want to go over fantasy stuff anymore.
No,
I think we've harped on that. So what else is going on? Anything fun out there in Phoenix and Arizona? You have to pick up one of our cameramen tonight around midnight.
Oh shoot, that's right, I do. Darn, I forgot about that. So yeah, I'll be picking up Rick. Jeremy Stewart, thanks for the super chat. I'll be picking up Rick tonight. Another one of our cameramen is also then drove in from, I believe, the LA area. He's probably just got here a little while ago. And tomorrow morning, we're getting at it. So for those that don't know, I don't think we beat this to death. I am going to be essentially taking over the role of what Steve Dodge did last year for the women's footage that gets spliced into our live afternoon footage. So as if you're not sick of hearing me already, you're about to hear more, because the goal or the plan is to, of course, go out. One of our cameramen will go out. He'll capture a few holes at a time of the women's footage. We're looking for a runner, someone that could bring back the footage to where I need to sit and edit, hopefully in a quiet, confined space. I will sit and edit, put together the pieces that then get ultimately assembled. I'll do the voiceover on them and then upload that to Johnny so that will all be ready for the 18 holes for when we're covering the men later in the afternoon. And I'll say rarely do I get nervous about things, but I'm ready to get tomorrow morning out of the way. I feel confident about it, but there's clearly a lot of pressure in terms of grabbing this footage and then turning around and spitting out these clips. I really, truly feel that I can handle it, but I'd love to check in say 24 hours in hopes that everything went really well. So I'm going to be doing that. I believe I'm going to be laying commentary over the top of it, as I said, and then submitting that to Johnny. So when we cut away after the tee shots on hole number 1, we'll cut away to some action or something that happened on hole number 1 on the women's side. And I guess we're going to have to see how that's going to look. I'd be interested. I'd love to see some feedback. Again, we're trying to time it because that's what you're seeing while we're walking down the fairway, so you don't have to see that, and that we can highlight what's going on with the women. But I'd love to see some feedback, maybe on our board even right now. What did people like or dislike about Steve's, I don't want to say just his style, but maybe his shot selection? I mean, because I think he's always looking for, pivotal moments, things where something happened. I mean, if there's 3 women playing and, 2 of them took just really easy pars, through a drive, through a basic approach, through a basic putt, I think, whether it was a birdie or a bogey, he was always looking for kind of those score-changing moments, that kind of thing. So I'd be curious to know what you guys would like to see or hear.
I'm sure whatever you do, it's going to be wrong. Don't worry.
All right, that I've accepted. But I've also heard that I might be able to improve on what Steve did. Is that a fair statement? If I just do an okay job?
We'll see.
Was that the best part of our show last year, is Steve's women's coverage?
I would hope not.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a little room to grow. Okay, I'm going to read a few of the comments that came in regarding that.
I think just so everyone knows, I think tonight we'll probably skip out on an after show. There's really not a heck of a lot going on. We'll probably do the Patreon giveaway before the end of the show tonight. So I think next week we'll probably do our Patreon giveaway will probably be the disc store. They reached out to us today at the last minute, and I didn't get a chance to get into it. So next week will be our disc member giveaway, more than likely.
Okay. Ray asked, just curious, after so much people watching FPO, could there ever be a 2-man, 2 women on the same card final round? I see what you're saying. That could be interesting. I don't, with different tees and different pins, though. I think what you're saying is you would love to see that play out, as in, You know, the fourth and final round of this event, for instance, it might be Paul and Ricky and then Kat and Paige, and they go out as our final card on the day. It's an interesting concept, but logistically, I don't see that unfolding anytime soon. And I'm guessing there's some rules that would really not suggest we do that. Tom said, I liked the splicing in of the women's covered. I would prefer Terry's commentary over Steve's. I'll screenshot that, put that on Steve's pillow tonight. Do the cut in of FPO after the men have finished the same hole?
That's a little bit tough because of the timing. We've kind of got it down to a science where after they tap in and to the next tee is almost exactly 1 minute. And that's what we have in commercials. And even sometimes it gets tight. So it makes more sense that it's about 2 minutes from when they tee off to when the first person, usually if they get down the fairway, gets to their lie. So that's why we do the FPO after the MPO shoot, because it gives them a little bit more time, and we're not throwing commercials in there. We're going to do it between holes. So that's the mentality. That's why it's able to spread it out a little bit more. We have more control over how much women's footage we can put in versus if we know we have a par 4, we can extend the women's coverage, whereas we like to have a consistent 2 commercials between every shot. That's why it is the way it is.
Dad's Drunk said there was a tourney last year or 2016 that had a 7-person final 9, and it was terrible on film. That was the Brent Hambrick. And the Brent Hambrick has a lot of unique qualities and has a long-standing reputation as a national tour event and definitely a go-to must-play event that everyone needs to play at one point. However, I agree. It was painful. I think we covered that live, Johnny. At one point, I think I literally threw my hands up and said, I don't know what the F is going on here. Like, there was just people throwing everywhere during, it was a final 9 holes, and it had the top 4 men and the top 3 women, and my mind just melted as trying to do commentary, trying to organize our cameramen. It was safari holes. You're exactly right, Dad's Drunk. It was, yeah, I hope to never, I love the event. I hope to never cover that portion of it again.
Jarrett Bass says, for me, I hate this commercial. Well, you're in luck, Jarrett. We have all new commercials this year, except for that one. The PDGA has not given us a new commercial. Other than that, we have more or less all new commercials this year from our sponsors. Actually, I think the Keen one is still, even though it's a good commercial, the Keen one is still old from last year. So, but sorry. Reach out to your PDGA people.
Yep. So the PDGA one looks to be the same. Joe Merlo says, no, we love Hambrick. Come back to Columbus. Again, great event, lots of history, amazing individual. Like, I get all of that.
Just
but
a poor decision.
Trying to film, especially live, trying to film and follow 7 people in a safari round live. That might have been one of the most frustrated, a little insider, that might have been one of the most frustrated I've ever been during a live broadcast. I was just at a loss. I may have blurted out something I shouldn't have at some point there. I don't know. I don't recall. I know I was so frustrated. The MVP is setting the bar with their new commercials. MVP has been killing it. There's no doubt about it. Another cool thing that, again, some of you won't experience unless maybe we get out there live or something later in the week. There's a few new festival games, and I think some people have been talking about it. We saw, I believe, a Discraft pendulum basket that was going back and forth. I know that was out at the festival. What I didn't realize in the pictures, one of the dynamic discs festival games out there is using the junior recruits. So you're throwing junior or the minis, the large size minis, to do one of the putting competitions out there, and I think that was awesome. Latitude 64, I believe, has a new, completely new game. So if you've seen the festival out here on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, just know that many of the games have transitioned into something different here in 2018. So that's pretty awesome. Terry, get me one of the new Vipers at Spinners.
Terry, what are we going to do? What are we going to give away for our Patreon? Do you have something memorial related that we can hand out?
For Patreon tonight, I could go round something up, I bet.
Why don't you make that a point? We'll give something we'll give something memorial related away to our Patreon giveaway tonight.
Good call. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do a drawing now, even while we're at it.
All right, so we can do that. All right, let's bring up the page. Okay, so what I've got here is we have 100 and that's not going to work like that. There we go.
As you do that, Chris Durkins, you said no mention of Vibram yet. We talked about that to open the show last week. That Vibram disc golf is no longer. So you're a week behind.
We have 167 people in the Patreon. Terry, give me number 1 through 5.
2s are good.
2? All right, so we're going to hit the random button 2 times, the generate button. It'll be the second one we draw, the second number we pull. So first number is 25. Gosh. Second number is 72.
72. I knew it would be 72 holes this weekend because 2s are good.
72 holes is Andrew Dupe, who I think won at one point early in the last year. Maybe not.
Maybe. He doesn't win regularly.
He's not a regular winner.
That much.
I mean, he's a winner in my heart, but not usually a winner. So congratulations, Andrew. We will reach out to you. You're going to get something from the memorial. Maybe it's a kiss from Terry. I'm not sure, but
hug.
It could be a hug. But we'll make sure you get it. So look for that email.
Matt Callista said a bottle of fountain water. That would be great. Yeah, I'll round one of those up.
Ugh.
Yeah. For those that don't know, it'll get talked about tomorrow, I'm sure, at some point during the live show. The fountain is beautiful to look at. You want to keep your mouth closed when you're around it. You don't want it to get on your sunglasses or any lenses of your camera, video camera, whatever, phone. That is reclaimed or recycled wastewater. I don't know if it's reclaimed or recycled, one of the two. Wastewater. So it's not something you want to be touching or having anything to do with. Get some water from Dana in Mexico. Yes.
Which would you more likely take a drink of, Terry? Straight Mexico water or fountain water?
Mexico. I guess neither, of course, sounds good, but well, let's put it this way. I'm going to go with just the unknown because I know for sure what is and what makes up and looks like the water of the fountain out there at Fountain Hills. At least with, I have no personal experience with any water from Mexico, but I will go ahead and I'll take door number 2 there.
Door number 2.
That is a tough question, everyone says. Or dehydration, yeah. So, and I guess I'll throw it out there as well. Depending on when you're listening to this, it may or may not be too late. But I personally am a little up in the air as to how the week's going to go. I know Johnny sometimes is around at night and does and chimes in and whatever. I may personally put up a few live shows and do some live things such as this out on the Disc Golf Guide channel. I may or may not do that. I've been doing it for the last couple years. Johnny usually doesn't get involved because usually I'm pulling in nonstop guests and just interacting with them. So that's something that I might pursue if you guys clamor for it loud enough. Maybe that will twist my arm, but with me doing the extra work on the women's side and extra editing and everything else that's going on, I don't want to fully commit to the idea of having a live nightly show, or maybe I'll do one every other night, or something crazy during that day. So of course it'll be on my Instagram. I'd probably mention it on this live broadcast and all those other things, that if you're going to see a live show that night, I'll make sure to put it out there, and I'd probably come to you from right here at Duke's. But it's not as for sure as it's been in years past. It really makes for a much longer week for me to even talk more, believe it or not, even for you guys. But I do enjoy all the different stories that we get. So we'll see how it goes. Predictions before we both go, Johnny.
Predictions.
Low score's gonna win.
No. That's not a fun prediction. I'm going to go with Ricky for the win. I think he gets his first Memorial win. I'm going to take Paige to win as well. She's always had a really consistent showing here, so that's not going out on much of a limb for the FPO. And I bet I think you're going to see Macbeth in the top 5 and Dawson in the top 5.
Okay.
How about you?
It's so hard to bet against Paige. I just don't know. I mean, if you're just, I'll say, thinking logically, if you're not acting on any raw emotion or favoritism or heart or anything of that nature, if you clearly just want to go what seems to be so obvious right now, you have to go with Paige. And you're right, Paige plays well here. Clearly, there's no disadvantage in terms of distance out here or anything of that nature. I think you're going to see Paige on top. That's how I feel. Feel like she's got that little bit of momentum coming off last weekend. She's, of course, talks a lot about having all the support. She's got her team here in Robert McCall, along with Bobby Brown, along with Jeremy Rusko. It's hard to bet against her, but obviously someone could say, well, Katrina, who's lived here and spent so much time here, Katrina, has obviously, led this or won this event. It's such a tough toss-up. And then there's, of course, there's, your Lisa Fakis, there's your Sarah Holcombs. I don't think Kona's quite in it and ready for a win yet. Madison had a great showing last weekend. I don't think she's quite there for the win yet. I mean, getting past those, I'll say those two massive, there's majorly talented and gifted Kat and Paige to claim a win. I mean, when they're both in a field and you somehow get past both of them, you're doing everything right and then some. So, I think you can catch one on a bad day or a bad weekend, but to get past both of them is just a feat very few people have done. So I got to go with Paige. On the men's side, I don't know what his struggles were in Vegas or wintertime, really. But Paul Macbeth has owned this event. I just, and that's a conversation we'll talk about a lot throughout the week, that this event has been won by so few men in the last decade. Paul's won it, 4, 5 times?
Nico. Felberg.
Yep. Way back when.
And
you're talking like 10 years now.
And not Colling, I'm sorry, but Colling,
yep.
And then Schustrick.
One more. Yeah. And both Colling and Schustrick
won in playoffs.
Took Macbeth to playoffs. So, I mean, I just, again, if you look at just the numbers, it's hard not to assume that you're going to see Paul up there in the battle.
And I'm not going to lie, I'm in a couple fantasy leagues. I have Paul winning one and Ricky winning another. I'm playing both sides of the fence depending on the different leagues. But I do think, honestly, I just think that this is Ricky's year for this event.
Okay. I mean, Ricky, who spends time in Arizona, obviously, there's no way I would be like, I'll bet my mortgage against that idea either, Johnny. So, I mean, this very easily could be Ricky's.
Let's do this. Give me a dark horse. Give me a someone maybe like sub 920 that's going to finish really well.
Wait, on the women's side?
On the men's side. Or 1020, I'm sorry, 1020.
I was going to say sub 920.
Yeah,
what?
Sorry, sub 1020. I'm sorry, I'm thinking you and me as far as our
sub.
I mean, Kevin Jones is the easy one because he's at 1,004 right now, but he's playing like a 1030 rated player.
I think that's easy. I think that's super easy. Chris Kesselhoff.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to go with Austin Turner this week.
Wrong.
Why?
Do I really? See, here's where I'm challenged. I have so much insider info that I didn't share with any of you guys tonight.
Is Austin not playing?
Here's a tidbit. Here's what I'm going to say. only because I'm a nice guy. Don't you guys forget this. As far as I know, Austin is still signed up to play at, God, such privy information. He sent a text to some of the guys over at Discraft, and this isn't a big secret if you're kind of hanging out around and paying a lot of really close attention. He's got a massive gap. It looks like an animal took to his finger. It's the picture I saw was gross. Chafing's not the right word. The chapping or blistering and or cracking of people's fingers in Vegas is a thing.
Was he in Vegas?
Yeah, I think he was one of my picks there too. Austin. So
wow. The only thing worse is if you would have picked Josh Anthon.
Which I did somewhere. So he was there. As everyone's saying, the dry air. You guys take it for what you want. I could be totally BSing you and working you, which would be hilarious, but I'm not. And I'm not saying it's going to affect his play, but I'm saying he is a massive, nasty, raw finger. So take that for how he could come out and win it. And clearly, I mean, at one point when we saw the picture, Doss said, that's right where I tape my finger. I'll have to show him how to tape it. Okay, let's extrapolate that. Austin Turner may or may not tape his finger for what may or may not be the first time ever, and now he's going to play in this massive Pro Tour event. Taped finger for the win, for the loss, who knows? But I ain't betting on it. I love you, Austin, but
I
ain't betting on it.
Well, thank you for the insider info because I have him in most of my leagues.
God damn it, I shouldn't have. See?
Only because this is such a big Discraft event. I thought he might be really coming out all guns a-blazing this event, really focused in order to please his sponsor, so to speak. So I might have to change it up a little bit.
Or don't, because I could be dead wrong.
If guess what? If I change it,
I might be confused with the other lefty, Devin Owens.
If I change it and he does well, that's on me, Terry. So
it is.
So thank you very much for the insider info here.
I've got way more that I'm not sharing with you guys. I have some really good stuff, and I'm just gonna say, and you're not even gonna hear it, Johnny.
That's not fair, Terry.
To keep secrets from you.
That's not fair, Terry.
It is. It is. Maybe
next event,
$100 a person Patreon level of the Disc Golf Guy page, you could too get this information.
At the next event, you stay here with Gio, and I will go on site and do, and then I'll get all the insider info.
Yes, you will. You will. You know what it's like just paddling around on all fours all day, sniffing around for information? I mean, it's a hard job out here. Insider trading is illegal in fantasy disc golf, Jeff Hawkins says.
Yeah, Terry, illegal.
Wait, should Terry be DQ'd for insider information?
No, I'll say this. Terry,
you put up the money to be here and the sacrifices to be here. And you too could have the insider information, Christy.
That's true. If you paid to be there, you could have insider info. And Terry needs all the help he can get. We've seen how his first week's picks have gone, so I do not begrudge him.
Yes. Well, the only thing worse I could do is have all this insider information and then still make terrible.
Still blow it.
But there it is. So it's only illegal if you get caught. Max says, sniffing people is usually frowned upon. You'd be surprised. Out here in Arizona, they do things differently. So, also, yes, follow Steve Hill. He's got the info. If Steve wants to share it, good on him, maybe. That's really, though, about all that I've got, Johnny.
Yeah, there's not a lot. I know Dukes is quieter than it normally is, and we can wrap this up here pretty quick. I'll look forward to maybe seeing you some night. If you go live, please let everybody know. And
yep.
I don't know, maybe maybe if I get time, I don't know what my schedule looks like this weekend. At some point in the next, what's today, Tuesday? 3 days, I need to build an entire derby car, Pinewood derby car for my kid because I forgot and I found out that weigh-in's on Saturday, so awkward. It's going to be thrown together, but we'll see.
I trust your woodworking skills there.
I wouldn't. I might end up with a giant gash like Austin.
Luke says Terry just starts giving out fake info each week just to try and catch up. That would in fact be hilarious if I had like 4 to 6 really drawn out, completely BS stories, and then maybe mix like what is that balderdash? But then maybe mix in just one totally truthful story. But I give you 4 to 6, and you guys take it for what it is. That would be pretty funny.
Dad's drunk. I did see Black Panther, and it was awesome.
I feel like we even talked about that last week. And some people are asking, why no Eagle after the big win? I mean, the Memorials is obviously it's wide open, and it's a pretty rich, deep field.
Why isn't he on the show tonight?
Oh, again, I'll say we didn't see him. I wish I would have seen him at any point.
It's such a tight window between the two events. Everybody rushes here to get playing, and then they all want to rest. It's really hard to find a good quality guest. Of no offense to
sure.
I know. Yeah, Jeff Dubois.
He was just over there getting drunk. I don't know. I was like, hey, you want to be
It's
on
really
show?
tough to get one of our top pros on this first night, just because they all want to rest and they want to get like their 1 or 2 rounds in and then just be done. So it's tough.
Yeah. No, we'll again, if it works out and it makes sense for me to do something else throughout the week. I know last year or the year before we had a couple sponsors that stepped up and said they really want to see an after or a nightly show, and so they presented it each night. And maybe if somebody who's interested in doing something like that, we could find a way to possibly make it work. And has Eagle ever been on Smashbox? Yes, Ryan. And this is a great trivia question for no points. Eagle experienced a milestone, a legitimate life milestone on SmashBoxxTV. Almost even 2 of them. But one in particular, and for 100 Eagle points, can anyone guess what that was, or does anyone recall what that was? Do you remember, Johnny?
I do.
I'll be interested to see. Somebody said Eagle's hair is less than 1,000 rated. Is that what that is? I see I've been given a hard time about my hair tonight. Yeah, I know.
Bryant nailed it. He did turn 18 on the broadcast. We dialed him up that night. I think he was with Simon, and we had him on as he turned 18. Yes,
he was actually on the podcast at the stroke of midnight his time. So he turned 18 here on our podcast. So. And he did get his driver's license recently, but that was not on our podcast. It would have been weird if we were in the car with him when he got his driver's license.
There was a pretty funny meme out there that Eagle kind of looks like Ellen DeGeneres. There's a kind of they're side by side. It's humorous. It's not perfect, but give me a quick chuckle before I moved on my social media. So let's wrap this up, Terror Bear.
All right, I'm good with that. All right, well, of course, we thank you guys for joining us tonight. I want to thank Jeff Jaqua, who, like I said, was just doing a little relaxing, and it was really, truly perfect timing with him just wrapping up Las Vegas, a few days ago. So it was great to catch up with him. And he even said, he's like, oh, I've never been on this show. I'm super excited to be. So thank you, Jeff. We do appreciate it. Thanks for the insights and the quick recap you gave us. Of course, go out and check out Joe Mez production for all of the FPO and MPO round coverage that you want to consume. It's all out there. For Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll see you guys tomorrow at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's when the show goes live. We'll see you every day this week for our live broadcast here at the Memorial Championships presented by Discraft, the kickoff to the 2018 Disc Golf Pro Tour season, where we're there live for you for all 10 events. We'll see you tomorrow when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxx TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.